and I am happy. Thank you, Sophie and Pedro. Something good came out of it. Sorry I y'all relationship up, but thank you for mine.
Bye, Liz. Go home. Bye. Adios. Home, Liz. Why is she crying? Because I called her out.
Kim flirting with Jamal's friend right in front of him was already awkward. But the moment Sophie called Liz a snake in the middle of the night, the whole trip went from messy to completely out of control. Nobody expected the drama to hit this level, and what shocked fans the most was not the fight itself, but how fast everyone turned on each other after acting like best friends just hours earlier. One minute they were laughing at the table, next minute someone was walking away in tears, someone else was yelling, and another person was busy flirting like nothing was wrong. So what really happened that made Sophie snap like that? The tension did not start in that moment, and that is the part people miss. The explosion came after days of small comments, side looks, and quiet doubts building under the surface. When Sophie went after Liz, it did not feel random. It felt personal, like something had been bothering her long before that night, and she finally lost control when she thought someone crossed a line she could not ignore. Liz breaking down later made the whole situation even heavier because the fight suddenly stopped looking like normal reality TV drama and started feeling uncomfortable to watch. When someone opens up about real pain in the middle of an argument, the mood changes fast, and even the people sitting at the table did not know how to react. At the same time, across the trip, Kim was doing something that made viewers just as confused. While everyone else was dealing with fights and hurt feelings, she was laughing, joking, and getting way too comfortable with Jamal's friend, and the energy there felt strange from the start. Fans online noticed it immediately, and a lot of people were asking the same thing. Was she trying to have fun, or was she trying to prove a point to her own son? And what makes this episode hit harder is that none of these moments came out of nowhere. The fight, the flirting, the breakdown, all of it connects back to things that started in the previous episode, and once you look at what happened before this trip even began, the whole situation starts to make a lot more sense. Because the truth is, the girls' night that was supposed to fix everything is exactly where things started falling apart. Before this whole snake comment and flirting mess happened, the trip was already hanging by a thread. Last episode ended with everyone trying to act like the vacation would fix their problems, but you could tell nobody was fully relaxed. The tension with Pedro was still there, Sophie was already unsure where she stood with him, and Liz looked like she was carrying something heavy even when she was smiling. You know that feeling when a group says everything is fine, but the silence feels louder than the conversation. That was the vibe from the start. Pedro pulling away earlier did not help at all. Sophie kept saying she wanted things to be easy, no pressure, just fun, but every time his name came up her mood changed. That is why when she heard Liz had talked to him, the reaction felt bigger than the situation itself. The question fans kept asking was simple. Did Liz really cross a line, or was Sophie already looking for a reason to be upset? Because from what we saw on screen, nobody even knew exactly what was said, yet the trust was gone in seconds. Liz was dealing with her own stress too, and this part made the episode feel different from normal drama. She had already talked about her health struggles before, and you could see she was trying hard to stay positive on this trip. When someone is carrying something like that, even small arguments hit harder. So when the group started questioning loyalty, it was not just gossip anymore. It started to feel personal, and that is where things got uncomfortable fast. Then, on the other side, Kim was in a completely different headspace. She kept saying she wanted a good guy, someone kind, someone stable, but every time she met someone nice, she looked suspicious instead of happy. You could see the trust issues right there on her face. And if you have been watching her story for a while, you know why. After everything she went through before, she does not believe sweetness is real anymore. She thinks it always hides something. So now you have Sophie feeling betrayed, Liz feeling misunderstood, Pedro staying distant, and Kim not trusting anyone who treats her well. Put all of that energy in one place, at a girls' night with drinks, and you already know nothing good is coming. Because the moment they all sat down together that night, one comment turned into a fight that nobody in that group was ready for. The moment Sophie brought up what Liz supposedly told Pedro, the whole table went quiet in that way where everyone knows a fight is coming but nobody wants to be the first to say it. Sophie did not sound confused, she sounded hurt, and that is an important difference. When someone asks a question calmly, they want answers. When someone asks with anger already in their voice, they are expecting betrayal. That is why the argument started so fast, because Sophie walked in feeling like Liz had already chosen sides. From Sophie's point of view, loyalty means backing your friend no matter what, especially when a guy is involved. You could hear it in the way she kept repeating that a real friend would never say anything negative to him. The problem is, loyalty does not mean the same thing to everyone. Some people think being honest is loyalty. Others think protecting the relationship is loyalty. And this is where the whole situation got messy, because if Liz told Pedro that Sophie was not ready, that might have been honesty, not betrayal. At the same time, Sophie's reaction felt bigger than the moment. When someone gets that upset that fast, it usually means the fear was already there before the conversation even started. Pedro had been distant, things between them were not clear, and when you already feel like you are losing someone, hearing that your friend talked to him can feel like confirmation of your worst fear. That does not make the reaction right, but it makes it easier to understand why she went straight into defense mode instead of asking what really happened. Liz, on the other hand, looked more frustrated than guilty. She kept saying she was not trying to hurt anyone, and her body language did not look like someone hiding something. It looked like someone tired of being blamed for a problem that was already there. This is why viewers started questioning if the friendship was ever as strong as they said it was. Because when trust is real, people ask questions first. When trust is weak, people assume the worst first. The tension kept building with every sentence, voices getting louder, everyone talking over each other, and you could see Liz's face change from annoyed to emotional. And the second she started talking about what she has been going through lately, the fight stopped feeling like gossip and started feeling a lot heavier. Because once Liz brought up her real-life struggles, the whole table realized this was not just about Pedro anymore. When Liz started talking about what she had been dealing with outside of this trip, the energy at the table changed fast. Up to that point, the argument sounded like the usual reality show fight about who said what, but the moment she mentioned her health and the miscarriage she went through, the mood dropped. You could see it on everyone's face. Nobody expected the conversation to go there, and for a second, it felt like the fight should have stopped right there. This is the part where viewers reacted very differently. Some people felt like Liz deserved more support in that moment, because when someone opens up about something that's serious, the normal argument rules should not apply anymore. Others felt like the timing made things more confusing, because the fight started over loyalty, not over her past, and the group did not know how to switch from arguing to comforting that quickly. Both reactions make sense, and that is why this scene felt uncomfortable instead of dramatic. Another thing that made the moment awkward was the question nobody answered clearly. Did Sophie and the others already know how serious Liz's situation was, or were they hearing details for the first time? If they knew before, then the lack of support looks cold. If they did not know everything, then their reaction looks more like shock than cruelty. The show did not give a clear answer, and that is exactly why viewers online started arguing about it after the episode aired. What made it even harder to watch was that Sophie still looked angry even after Liz got emotional. Not yelling the same way, but not soft either. That tells you the hurt she felt about Pedro was still sitting there, and when someone feels betrayed, it is hard to switch into sympathy mode right away. It does not mean she did not care, it means the fight was still fresh in her head. Liz, meanwhile, looked done with the whole situation. Her voice got quieter, her answers shorter, and instead of trying to prove her point, she started pulling back. When someone reaches that point, it usually means the argument already went too far, and the second she stood up from the table, you could tell this night was not going to end with everyone hugging it out. Because once Liz walked away, the group was left sitting there with more tension than before, and Sophie still was not ready to let it go. After Liz walked away, the focus shifted straight back to Sophie, and this is where the night went from emotional to chaotic again. Instead of calming down after everything that was said, she looked even more convinced that she had been wronged. When someone feels hurt, the brain starts collecting proof to support that feeling, even if the situation is not that simple. Sophie kept repeating that a real friend would never talk to a guy behind her back, but at the same time, viewers could not ignore that her relationship with Pedro had been shaky long before this trip even started. This is where the hypocrisy talk started online, not in a cruel way, but in that confused way fans get when they see someone blaming others for something they also did themselves. Sophie had said before that she was not sure about the relationship, that she wanted space, that she was not ready for pressure. Then, the moment Pedro started pulling away, the panic kicked in. That kind of reaction is human, but it also makes the fight with Liz look less about loyalty and more about fear of losing control of the situation. And let's be honest, this show has a pattern. When relationships start falling apart, people rarely say I am scared. They say you betrayed me, you ruined this, you caused that. It feels stronger to blame someone else than to admit you are worried the person you like might not choose you anymore. That is why some viewers felt like Sophie was not only mad at Liz, she was mad at how things with Pedro were going, and Liz just happened to be the easiest target in that moment. Even the way she talked in the car later felt like someone replaying the argument in her head and getting more upset instead of less. We have all seen that before. The fight ends, but the mind keeps going, adding new reasons to stay angry, and the more she talked about it, the more it sounded like the whole trip was falling apart, not just one friendship. By the time the night ended, nobody looked happy. Nobody looked closer, and the vacation that was supposed to fix things felt worse than before. But the next morning, everyone acted like it was a fresh start, and that is exactly when another surprise changed the mood again. Just when it seemed like the tension was about to swallow the whole group, Julia dropped the kind of news that made everyone stop mid-sentence. Out of nowhere, she revealed she was pregnant, and the reaction was instant. Sophie's anger faded for a moment, replaced by wide-eyed surprise, and even a little laughter broke through the lingering tension. It was one of those moments where reality TV does what it does best, mixes heavy drama with a completely unexpected twist. The timing could not have been more chaotic. One minute the group was teetering on full-blown meltdown mode, the next minute they were suddenly talking about baby names and cravings. This reveal created a pause in the chaos, and you could see the relief on faces that were just tense minutes ago. It reminded viewers why these trips are so unpredictable. People go in expecting drama, but sometimes life delivers a reset button. It was also interesting to watch Sophie soften, if only slightly. Even she had to pause and process that someone close to her was experiencing something life-changing, while the group had been caught up in arguing about loyalty and betrayal. The juxtaposition was almost cinematic, the storm of emotions meeting a sudden ray of happiness. But here is the catch. The twist did not erase the tension completely. The lingering questions were still there. Will Sophie fully let go of her anger? Can this trip actually stay peaceful after what happened last night? Will the group be able to pivot from drama to celebrating together without falling back into old patterns? The pregnancy reveal gave a light moment, but the stakes for everyone else were still very much alive. Meanwhile, as the group tried to smile through the news, Liz was gearing up for her own moment, a date that promised something entirely different from the hotel drama. It was her chance to leave the tension behind, even if just for a little while. And as Liz stepped out for this date, nobody could predict how her night would unfold, or if the ghosts of the girls' night fight would creep back in. Liz arrived at her date looking tentative but hopeful, like someone stepping into a world she had avoided for far too long. The man she was seeing, Via, seemed calm and attentive, giving her space to open up in a way she had not done in a long time. The conversation quickly turned personal, and Liz shared the heartbreak she had endured over the past year. The ovarian cancer diagnosis that followed a miscarriage, the sudden end of a previous relationship, and the constant worry about whether anyone would stay when they saw the full picture of her life. Hearing this, you could sense the weight she had been carrying, a mix of grief, fear, and the longing to be seen for who she truly was. What makes moments like this so tense is that trauma changes the way people trust. After losing a baby and facing a serious illness, it is not unusual for someone to question whether they can let anyone in again. Liz's hesitation was not about the date itself, but about the possibility of being vulnerable and then rejected. She had learned the hard way that love can disappear when life gets messy, and even a small gesture of care can feel like a test she is not sure she wants to pass. Via, however, seemed to sense that. He listened, he laughed at her little jokes, he acknowledged her pain without making it about him. That combination of empathy and patience is rare in early dating, especially after everything she had been through. It created a quiet kind of hope, a feeling that maybe, for once, she could let someone in without fear. But hope in this situation was fragile, layered with caution. The question remained: could she trust him fully, or would old fears take over before the relationship had a chance to start? Even as the night progressed and Liz smiled more freely than she had in months, she ended their conversation with a line that sounded almost like closure. "I think tonight was good for me," she said, her voice steady, but not final. The words carried relief, yes, but also a subtle hesitation. A reminder that while she may have taken a step forward, the road ahead was far from certain. Her journey toward love and trust was just beginning, and every small choice now would matter more than ever. Kim walked into the scene like she owned it, full of confidence, but things immediately felt off. She started chatting with Jamal's friend, Josh, in a way that was playful, but also clearly designed to get a reaction. Some might call it harmless teasing, others saw it as a calculated move, revenge flirting, if you will, aimed at making Jamal squirm a little. And let's be honest, it worked. Jamal's face was priceless, part jealousy, part confusion, and part what is happening right now. Kim seemed to thrive on the tension, tossing compliments and teasing jokes, testing boundaries without fully crossing any lines. Fans online immediately noticed. Social media lit up with reactions ranging from "she's messing with him on purpose" to "is this just playful or something more?" The psychology here is fascinating. When someone flirts with a friend's close circle, it's rarely about genuine interest, it's about testing social control, gauging reactions, and sometimes pushing old insecurities to the surface. Kim had been burned by previous relationships, especially by guys who didn't match her level of emotional investment. In that context, her behavior wasn't random, it was her way of reclaiming power, showing that she could provoke emotion without being vulnerable herself. But it's a tricky line. Josh seemed amused but also slightly awkward, like he didn't want to encourage things too far. And Jamal, well, he was visibly on edge. Meanwhile, the conversation gave fans plenty to debate. Was Kim serious or just joking? Was this playful revenge, or did it hint at deeper feelings? And would this behavior affect her actual date later with Joe, the guy she had been cautious about from the start? Those questions kept people engaged online and had a lot of us leaning forward, waiting to see how the drama would unfold. And the energy didn't stay confined to teasing. The small interactions, laughter, and awkward pauses built up to a real sense of anticipation. Every glance and smirk seemed loaded with meaning, and you could almost feel the unspoken tension stretching across the room. Kim's behavior wasn't just about fun, it was testing limits, observing reactions, and subtly controlling the narrative around her. Eventually, the scene shifted, and Kim had to refocus on her date with Joe. She left Josh and Jamal behind, stepping into a different kind of tension, one with higher stakes and the potential for real connection. The question now was whether the spark she fanned with playful mischief could survive in the calmer, more serious world of a proper date. Kim's date with Joe started with promise. He was kind, attentive, and clearly put effort into planning the evening. He even surprised her with small, thoughtful touches, trying to make the night feel special. But as the conversation flowed, Kim felt something missing. Despite Joe being considerate and sweet, the spark she craved never appeared. It was the classic nice guy, no chemistry scenario, and you could see the frustration in her expressions. This wasn't about him doing anything wrong, it was about her pattern. After so many past heartbreaks and disappointments, Kim seemed wired to expect complications, and now even the nicest gestures couldn't override her instincts. Here's where the psychology hits. People who've been hurt deeply often struggle to trust someone completely, even when the person is perfect on paper. They test, hesitate, and sometimes unknowingly sabotage opportunities before they can blossom. Kim's caution made sense, but it also kept her from letting this potential connection grow naturally. She was protecting herself from future pain, but in the process, she risked missing something genuine. Fans watching online immediately picked up on it, sharing theories, debating if she was being too harsh or simply realistic. By the end of the date, Kim's verdict was clear. She appreciated Joe and enjoyed the evening, but the attraction just wasn't there. She left with a smile, a little hopeful that her instincts hadn't failed, but also aware that the right match was still out there, waiting for her when she was truly ready to let go of past pain. Meanwhile, the hotel drama was far from over. Sophie's meltdown, Liz's vulnerability, and Kim's cautious heart all pointed to one thing: the next episode was shaping up to be explosive. If you think this night was intense, wait until we see how unresolved tensions collide and which new twist pushes everyone to the edge.